Hi, I'm Zhao Yi, and we're the UX Research Group, and this is James, Molly, Pete, and David, and Justin, and we're going to present our work together. Project Matching App is an app that we're building to help improve new member engagement here. So what we noticed that it started with noticing the pain points that new members experience coming to the Hack Night. The first pain point is that the new member shows up, they don't necessarily know which project team they can join. Even if they identify a project team, very often they talk to the team, spend a lot of time, and realize there's a mismatch of expectation. They may not have the right skills, or they may not be able to commit to the level that the project team expect. So we have an open ideation session inviting new members to brainstorm how we can solve this problem, because a lot of people come here wanting to join a project. And there were several new members that essentially said, well, I wish I had a sorting hat to just tell me which project team would match me the best so I can go talk to them. So we decided to facilitate this process by building a project matching app, essentially match new members to project teams based on their shared skills and civic interests, and facilitate the communication ahead of time. Before we jump right into building this app, we went through an exercise called User Journey Map. The idea is that we want to imagine how users might use project matching apps step by step. For example, the first step, they would have to enter their skills and civic interests so we know what they're interested in. And then the new member will receive a project list with rankings of matchness to a project team. And then they can browse and identify projects of interest with our recommendations. And then the last step is they can communicate with the project team. And then we, again, have an open brainstorming session inviting people to write down their concerns and concerns they have for each step, and the strategies we can use to address these concerns. For example, if we want to ask people to enter their skills and civic interests, we need to have a word pool to begin this process so we can match them rather than just like open word sets that we can't actually generate any match. And I'm gonna invite the people working on each sub-project to talk about what concern they're addressing and also the strategies they're using to address the concern. And
Hey, I'm David, and I'm working with Justin on the taxonomy part of this. So in order to match people effectively to a project that overlaps with their civic interests and needs their skills, we need to have a list from which we can choose. So in order to get that list, we did surveys. Many of you participated in them. Thank you very much. And we took that survey result. We actually, Justin and I and others, built about 10 different versions of our survey, making sure that the questions actually resulted in the kinds of things we were looking for, weren't confusing, didn't take too long, that sort of thing. Then once we had that giant list, we did card sorting with them.
So with card sorting, we had our users group the words into categories that they thought made sense, and then we analyzed the results from that, and we cut the words down from about 100 to 9 groups for a primary list, and we're working on secondary lists right now, which we have to test a bit more. That's
it. After we come up with these words, we will be able to match new members with project teams, and then we'll be able to present them with a project list. Again, this comes from the earlier brainstorming session. There are 2 elements in a project list. One is the content. So the concern we have is what kind of information should we display that would help facilitate this project identification process. And also what kind of information is more important that we should display in the high-level view versus what are information that's important but we can display in the detailed view. And there's second element, which is actually the UI. How should we display the information to make it very easy for new members to identify projects of interest without overwhelming them with too much information? So the first part, in terms of the content, the strategy we use is we first talk to a bunch of users to identify what kind of information they're looking for in a project to decide which project team to join. And we come up with probably 7, 8 different criteria they're looking for, and then we did a quick card sorting that some of you guys helped with, Essentially, we want to know the importance of each category. For example, mission statement, skills needed, to-do list, etc. After that, we are able to identify information that's more important versus information that's secondary. And we started doing content prototyping. Essentially, we try to come up with content based on the information we can find on GitHub to see if new members are able to identify project of interest within a 3 to 5 minutes time frame.
Okay, so after figuring out what the ideal experience is for this matching hat, we needed to create this an ideal flow that was smooth and efficient. So that's where the user interface design, prototyping, and testing comes in. We went through several exercises with the UX team, including lots of Crazy 8 sketching, which you can see on the left there, storyboarding, just over here, and concepting of ideal solutions. We're focused on the initial inquiry from a prospective member all the way through to connecting with a project. We started storyboarding the user interface to discover the ideal scenario. The storyboarded the overall experience, first of all, and then narrowed down on individual steps. So we're sort of dividing, we've got this big group and we're dividing into smaller groups in order to tackle the individual items like profile creation, interacting with the project list, and connecting to projects for the first time. So we came up with a user testing plan, and to answer the questions that we came up with earlier about the pain points of onboarding. And we're currently starting to prototype and test the solutions that we came up with through the design. And we're learning a lot and refining our prototypes every time we do new testing. So I happen to be doing the Connect. I'm in the Connect group. On the right here, we've got Fahad and Anthony working on other groups like the content and project list. And we're building our sketches in prototyping apps like Balsamic, Just in Mind, Sketch, and we're doing user tests. If you've been here on Wednesday nights, you may have noticed that we're trying to pin you down and ask questions. So we're starting to test them here at the Hack Night as well as outside of the group. And thank you in advance, and thank you for what you've done for helping us go to the next iteration. After the lo-fi prototypes, which is what these are, we're going to move to more high fidelity with visual design, which is my special love, and then we'll be doing more testing.
And while all of the UX research is going on, James and I have been working on the technology side to put the base together that'll underpin all of the UX that's needed. At this point, we're working with a front end in basic JavaScript, Pug, which used to be Jade for HTML templating, Bootstrap for responsive design, and jQuery. On the server, we're in the Brigade Hub beta with Node.js and Express. The database is Mongo. The algorithm is Python for the matching. And we're using Heroku to host it so that at the next stage, when we've got the first mock-up of the level 2 wireframes running on the server, we'll be able to do some sort of guerrilla UX testing actually from the very simple version of the application, and then take it from there. I don't think, I'm not going to try to go through the demo. It's very basic, and you've seen the wireframes, which is what it implements. But the instance is out there at that URL. It's not responsive yet, so you'd need to use the laptop or an iPad to access it and see what it's going to do. That's just an early version, but I'm sure we'd like to get people's feedback on that, because we'll be doing a lot more to refine how the choices are presented and how the search results are presented, and some other features we want to put into it.
This is where we're at, and we want to continue being the bridge that match new members with project teams at Code for San Francisco. We'll continue finalizing our prototyping, user testing. We also plan to create a responsive mobile design. We also plan to open source our matching mechanism and the design. So for government and nonprofit organizations out there, so if you know any organizations that need this type of matching mechanism or the design, please feel free to ask them to contact us. And thank you.
Hey, this is a really cool project. I have a question. Have you considered integrating with Slack at all? Because I know when I onboarded, that was kind of the first group association I had with Code for San Francisco, and then also communicating with the other teams.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. We are thinking to put it in a secondary priority, just because a lot of new members we talk to don't have Slack yet, and they also tend to feel a little bit uncomfortable about joining Slack if they don't already have Slack. So our plan is to allow them to contact people through emails first, but we're definitely thinking about, I think you guys experiment with Slackbot, right? So it's possible that we can implement it as an option to join Slack.
Great project. So I was curious if other CFA brigades have expressed interest in forking this project, or whether you've learned anything about the solutions that any others have come up with for this.
I know there are interests out there, and I do want to reach out and see what they have learned so far, but I know most people are sort of in the beginning stage of building it, and it's a great idea to reach out and collaborate with them for sure.
So I noticed that you listed the Brigade Hub as part of your back end. Is your intention ultimately to integrate with the front end, the current front end of Brigade Hub?
Definitely. We saw Brigade Hub. We think that is the primary thing that people will get to when they come here. So we thought, well, let's just piggyback on that and use the same modules and everything else. However, this thing could run on its own. They don't have to see the rest of the Brigade Hub stuff there. They can still use it. If someone wants to fork it and not use Brigade Hub. So, yeah. Although all the pieces of it aren't Brigade Hub, we have a Python piece. We also have a piece that mitigates the email so that the end user doesn't have to go through their email, but that there can be messaging going on. So that isn't Brigade Hub, but it could be. So, yeah.
Any other questions?
Hi, great project, and I'm a prospective member, so I think that this would be super useful in the future. I was wondering, is it possible to update, how will you update the projects and help the potential members figure out at what stages the projects are at? Is there a feature for that?
I think right now what we're thinking is that we're just enable project leads to update as frequently and also link to their GitHub page as well. I think a lot of it really depends on how frequent the project update and also their GitHub page.
And will it be accessible through the website too for even prospective members that haven't been to a Code for America meetup?
Definitely. The Brigade Hub aspect will have updated information. One interesting thing about Brigade Hub is that it reaches out to the GitHub, the Git repos of all those projects to get the data that it needs. And so each project ostensibly will keep those updated. And I'm not sure if they will actually have to actively go to Brigade Hub or our system to update our system. They'll just update their own repos. But I do think it will take some constant maintenance to make sure that they do that. As as we all know, people work on things and aren't constantly worried about that. They should be.
I think we also have a plan of coming up with a guideline in terms of how they can maintain their information. So it might be hard to do like week-to-week update, but it might be a good idea to have like, an update every couple months to keep it relatively updated.
Thanks, everybody. We have time for one more? Okay, we do one more.
For the Python part, what are you guys using for the algorithm?
The algorithm is in Python. It's a Python script, and we start with command line, so you can just interact with it on the command line. And it interacts with the MongoDB, which is the database, which also Brigade Hub would be using. That's where all the project data is. So we're a Node.js application. Node.js application interacts with that Python script and brings the results back to the web page rendered by Node.js. It could be fancier than that, but this is only a technical prototype. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.